Today's episode of Entertainment Drive-Thru is brought to you by Audible.com. Audible.com has over 180,000 audiobooks and audio products. Get your free audiobook of your choice at audibletrial.com/edrivethru.
Welcome to Entertainment Drive-Thru. Today's special is Cherie Currie, Chainsaw Chick.
Quiet on the set.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Annie.
Hello, welcome to Entertainment Drive-Thru. I'm Anna, with me is my co-host Dan, and today we have a very special guest. She's an amazing artist, she's an amazing singer, she's an amazing actress, and now sculptor. I'm super excited to welcome the former vocalist of the Runaways. She's done her own music, and I can't wait to hear all about her new art. Let's welcome, joining us is the one, the only, Cherie Currie!
Yeah, welcome to the show.
Cherie Currie.
Well, Dan and Anna, it's so nice to be here. Thanks for that cool welcome.
Absolutely. Well, how are you?
Oh, I'm great. Anna, by chance, are you from Iceland?
Yes.
Well, I've got a very dear friend named Anna who's also from Iceland. You
No
guys
way.
sound so alike.
Really?
Sounds just like my friend Anna.
Aw, that's so sweet.
Well, then, in that case, just imagine this whole interview that you're talking to your friend, and it'll probably be just awesome.
Well, that's going to be easy, Dan. Easy.
Well, tell us a bit about you, though. Now, how did you get started as a musician?
Well, of course, that was it was a fluke. I happened to be at the right place at the right time. When I was 15 years old, I was at a club, an underage club. Mm-hmm. You had to be under 21 to get in. It was called the Sugar Shack in North Hollywood, and
Nice.
Kim Fowley and Joan Jett happened to come in because they were scouting for a lead singer and a bass player, and they happened to like my look, and so they asked if I would like to audition, and the rest is history on that one.
What was that look? Like, did you put on like insane mascara or like really cute outfit?
No.
Or?
No, I was 15 years old. I had the bleach blonde shag,
Nice.
and they just, I think I just had an attitude that they also liked as well. I mean, I was very much into David Bowie, and I had that, I guess, fresh but kind of hard-ass look, I guess.
Nice.
See, I think
They liked the way I looked, yeah.
See, I think that would have been so funny if if you weren't the first person that they saw, and they saw someone who just had this awesome, rocker, badass chick look, and then they talked to her like, "We love your look. How are you as a singer?" And then the person's just like a sweetheart, just like a stuck-up girl, and they're just like, "Yeah, no, never mind."
But you know what, Dan? That actually happened because they approached my twin sister Marie first.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but
That's crazy.
Marie thought Tim was creepy and just said, "Get away from me, creep."
Nice.
Yeah, and she was badass. My sister, she didn't take anything from anyone, and she just did not like Kim Fowley right off the bat. So
Really?
then they just kind of, maneuvered towards me. But I was up for it because I had, just been to my very first David Bowie concert and had this epiphany that this was I wanted to be a stage performer.
Right.
And boom! It happened so quickly after
Wow.
that infamous concert for me.
So your sister was too much of a badass for them.
Well, my sister really. Again, I ended up doing a record with my sister for Capitol,
Right.
and after I had made the record, I think it was just that she really wanted to have a taste of what it was like, but she really didn't. It wasn't for her.
Right.
So after we had made the record and the record came out, she basically bowed out, wanted to have a family, and So it really wasn't her cup of tea in the end.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and I wanted to ask you, because I mean, now you've branched out, you've done actually quite a bit outside of just music, but I wanted to ask, because music is what you're most known for, when was that moment? Was it the David Bowie concert, or when was that moment that you decided that was exactly one of the main things you wanted to do with your life? It wasn't going to be writing a movie called The LA I screwed that up. The LA Chainsaw Massacre. But I almost threw in the joke I was actually making. But you wanted to be a musician.
No, it was that Diamond Dogs concert at the Universal Amphitheater.
Yeah.
It was that concert where I was standing in the audience watching David Bowie, and it was literally like the sky had opened and the angels were singing, and I'm not kidding you. I just knew at that moment that this was in my future, and this is what I wanted to do. I went on from there to do a talent show imitating David Bowie, and I won that talent show. I mean, in the movie The Runaways, they have people throwing food at me and stuff, but no, I actually won that talent show, and it just started moving from there. Even though I had never really sang professionally or been in a rock band before the Runaways, I was singing Dean Martin and with my dad and my twin sister. But it was, that was the moment for me, that Bowie concert. And when I walked out, I felt like I was a different person. I actually had a goal.
Wow.
Well, and I think the thing about David Bowie that just fascinates me is I feel like it's impossible for your view on music, for anyone's view on music, to not change at least a little bit after hearing or watching David Bowie. Because there's just something about him that's just, it's so awesome. I mean, I remember the first time I heard his music, I was like, I don't know why, but I have to watch a video of him. I just had to see him perform. And then I saw the video and I was like, that guy is a performer. That is awesome.
Oh, I so agree, Dan. And again, I mean, his charisma, his presence, everything that he had mastered. And again, what so surprised me, and I actually watched a program about the 5 years where he developed himself as an entertainer. I mean, none of these characters were actually him.
Right.
Yeah.
From Ziggy Stardust, and then, of course, the Thin White Duke and all that. I was so blown away of how he created these characters so well. And I'll tell you, when I went to the Diamond Dogs concert, I mean, I was expecting to see Ziggy. I wasn't expecting to see the Thin White Duke.
Right.
But it was still the man is truly one of the greatest performers, androgynous type, what you would write novels about. I mean, he's just that spectacular and amazing to me.
Right.
No one will ever replace David Bowie. I don't think anyone can. I mean, anyone that tries is, just a spin-off, and everybody knows it. So.
Right, exactly. Now,
Hey, they're good too. A lot of these people, like myself as well. I mean, in the Runaways, and Joan, she was following, Susie Quattro, and I was following David Bowie, and we kind of pretended to be them until we could find out who we were. It's very hard at 15, 16 years old to be thrust onto a stage and not and be able to know who you are, especially at that time in the 70s where everybody was, quite outrageous.
Yeah.
And I love that you girls were able to do that in such a short time to sort of, blow up like that.
Yeah, well, we were put to work pretty hard and pretty fast and furious. So it was amazing to leave on our first tour. I mean, we were in the studio almost immediately after we had been signed, and I think I was only with the band just a number of weeks before we were signed to Mercury Records, and then into the studio very quickly. I think the entire first record was made in just a couple of weeks, and then we were thrown onto the road. And even though it was supposed to be a short tour, they kept adding dates and adding dates.
Right.
And I mean, I could be wrong because time ended up just, kind of blending into just being, because I think we were out there for 3 months, maybe more, our first tour.
Wow.
Yeah, they just kept adding shows and adding shows and adding shows. I didn't think I was ever coming home. But we came home.
Right.
We came home, headlining the Santa Monica Civic. When we had left, we were playing the Starwood. So, it was quite a huge difference.
All right, well, we're going to take a quick break to listen to a clip from Shades of Me off Cherie Currie's new album, Reverie, featuring her son Jake Hayes on vocals. But we'll be right back. One of the things that you've done outside of music is acting. Did you get into acting also because of David Bowie? Because he's done quite a bit of acting as well.
Well, actually, no. No. It was I was performing, doing a show down in Orange County, and an agent, Dennis Brody from the William Morris Agency, happened to be at this show, and he just walked up and he asked if I was interested in acting, and I just said, well, I consider myself a performer, so why not?
Right.
So the first couple of things he sent me out on was Fox's, and I think it was also Rock and Roll High School.
Wow.
I believe that was it. I ended up getting both of them, but I had to pick one, and which was Fox's, which I really wanted to work with Jodie Foster.
Right.
So, and I was scared to death. I mean, but it was a great experience.
Yeah, and everybody loved you in that performance with Fox's.
Well, thank you.
Well, and one thing actually you brought up that I actually find fascinating, and I feel like when we talk to people on the show that have been around, for since like the 80s or the 70s, I find that the moral of the story is that everyone who wants to make it today should get a time machine and go back to the 70s and 80s and be in their teens in those times. Because I find that one thing that doesn't seem to happen as much today is all the scouting. I mean, it seems like everyone got scouted like in the 70s, the 80s, even, a little bit the 90s. It doesn't seem to happen as much today.
Yeah. Well, I agree. My son, he's just been signed. He's got a band, Maudlin Strangers, and he produced and played most all the instruments on my new album, Reverie.
Oh, nice.
It's very different. I mean, once, the pay-to-play stuff started happening, course means you have to pay to play.
Oh yeah.
I think that just really started to ruin everything, because a lot of these bands that would pay to play some of these places, it just you couldn't weed out the kids that had just picked up a guitar yesterday to the people that really deserve to be out there. And I think it's lost its sheen, and a lot of it's word of mouth. And it takes a long time for that word of mouth to get to any executive or anyone that can really help you. So, the magic is gone when it comes to cool haunts that executives could go to and watch bands that were very worthy of stardom, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So true.
Well, and actually, because you brought up the new album, first of all, congratulations on the new album, Reverie. I've been listening to it for the past week. It's really amazing. And I wanted to ask about how this album came together. First of all, where did the name Reverie come from?
Well, Jake and I had written a song for a movie soundtrack a few years back, which the movie didn't happen. But, and once Kim Fowley had reached out to me about a little over a year ago, he said, I hear that you would work with me again, is basically
Nice.
It was a great one that I said I'd work with Kim again. and I said, yes, I would love to work with you. And, of course, in perfect Kim Fowley style, he says, well, come to my apartment, let's write some songs. And I wanted to bring my son Jake with me because I knew he had to witness this man and his writing, the way he wrote. And Jake wrote the music, for the songs as Kim, composed them as quickly and brilliantly as you can even imagine.
Yeah.
But the thing is we wrote 4 songs. Jake and I came back to my house to fine tune and get a melody and structure it a little bit better. And within 2 days, Kim had already booked a studio, and we were in the studio recording. That's the way Kim worked. But after 3 days in the studio, Kim couldn't. The last day he couldn't come.
Oh.
So he was just too ill. And again, he was on a walker. He had a bladder bag. He really ailing, and he asked Jake to please finish this record.
Wow.
So Jake did it, even though he had his own band and he had a record deal in the works, and he was trying to juggle them both. That's why it took so long to finish this record. And Jake and I came together and compiled songs, with Kim's help as well. And we wanted 10 songs that we thought were going to be worthy of this record. And, it would have been great to have had Kim at the helm.
Right.
Finish this entirely, because it would have been done, in 3 weeks.
Right, exactly.
Instead of the year that it took. But, Jake did a fantastic job.
But how do you feel about having Jake? It must be so special to have your son involved in your project and sort of introduce him to the music life,
Well, you know what, Jake, I did 4 tours year before last, and Jake was in my band. He's been with me since the actual, me coming back into music, which was when the Runaways movie came out.
Wow.
And I opened for Joan Jett at the Pacific Amphitheater, and Jake was a part of the band. And then after, a couple of years later, I just decided to I had a falling out with Blackheart, for a record that I had made with Matt Sorum, and they weren't releasing it. And after years, as a management, I walked from them and decided I wanted to go and play. So Jake played guitar, and then he decided to play drums on the last tour, and so he was introduced to the road life and what to expect. So now that he's out touring with his band, he's like a seasoned pro.
Wow.
Well, I have to ask though, like when you're on the road with Jake, being that he's your son and everything, if he ever starts to piss you off, do you ever just go, I know how to use a chainsaw, right?
You know what? Jake has never pissed me off. I mean, He's just such you guys probably think that I'm lying, but I just never heard this kid ever raise his voice. I mean, he's seen so much of this bad in this business as well that, he laughs at all of it. He just finds it. He's learned to channel all the disappointment or the unfairness of this business and just make it, to his advantage. But he and I would share a room, and it was great. I got to hang out with my kid and tour, flying and driving throughout the U.S. and Canada, and it was just a fantastic experience. I can't tell you. And even though now I know it's not going to happen anymore, he's got his own band, and that's hard. That's hard. But I got to have that experience, and he got to have the experience. So, I feel very comfortable to say goodbye to him and let him go and do all the things that I was not able to accomplish in the music industry. Because he will go places. He's so talented.
Well, and not every parent gets to say that they were in a band with their kid. Right? I mean, that is awesome.
I know. I'm very blessed.
Well, and
that kid produced the record. I mean, I think that's almost first at this point. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, and we didn't really get to talking about it. How did the name Reverie come to play?
Oh, well, that was Jake. I mean, the movie was very retro that we were writing this for. It kind of a dream sequence type of what they needed the song for, and Jake came up with the words, so we wrote the song around that word.
Oh, okay.
And I just loved I loved it. I just loved the whole idea of Reverie, and so I just decided that was going to be the title I was going to name the record.
Today's episode of Entertainment Drive-Thru is brought to you by Audible.com. Audible.com is offering listeners a free audiobook of your choice and a free 30-day trial membership. Just go to audibletrial.com/eDriveThru and choose from over 180,000 audio programs. Download a title free and start listening. It's just that easy. Go to audibletrial.com/eDriveThru. That's audibletrial.com/eDriveThru and get started today. And now I wanted to move on here to a topic that I've been waiting to talk about this entire time, because I love that, like, your journey as you know, in your life, you started off as a badass, and then you went to being a super badass by being able to sculpt with a chainsaw. I mean, how does someone get into sculpting with a chainsaw?
Well, you know what? It was a calling. And, you really have to listen to that little voice in your head. You have to. And I mean, artwork, if it wasn't for art, I never would have had my first book, Neon Angel, Cherie Currie story, that came out in 1989 through Price Started Sloan, because at the time I was a counselor for drug-addicted teens at Coldwater Canyon Hospital, and I had to spend time with them before I was a counselor as a tech, sitting in a classroom 2 hours a day with these kids. And I had to do something with my time, so I started to draw. Nice. And I went to Price Stern and Sloan as an artist to illustrate children's books. And when they asked me how long I'd been drawing, I said, a year. Wow. And they said, how is possible? And I told them the story about the Runaways and the drug addiction and all this. And they said, we've been looking for our first young adult book, and this is it. So I walked in as an artist and walked out an author.
Wow. That's crazy.
And so then after my wonderful ex-husband and I got divorced, I went from, sketching to painting, and then from painting to relief carving, which is, I painted a steer skull on an oak tabletop, and I just wanted, you just want to, like, bring it a little bit more to life.
Right.
So I started relief carving, which is the two-dimensional flat carving, and then I was going to the beach one day and happened to see a couple of guys chainsaw carving at the side of the road. Ooh. And even though I stopped that day, I could not get it out of my head, and that voice kept saying, every night I went to bed, every morning I got up, you have to go back. You have to go back. And I did a couple of weeks later, and I walked into their gallery, and I did not see, what you would expect chainsaw carving to be, like the, crude cuts and, not refined or defined. I saw these beautiful mermaids, and they were gorgeous. And this voice said, you can do this. Yeah. And so I asked them if I could apprentice there. They saw some of my relief work, and they said yes. And my third piece, I took to it after they taught me how to not kill myself with the saw, and that I just owe them everything for. Right. But I really took off as an artist there, and my third was 3 sea turtles swimming around a piece of coral, and that was accepted into the Malibu Art Expo, which is very hard to get a piece in. Wow. And then I started competing in 2005 and placed in 2 major competitions, and it became my livelihood for 15 years. Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. Wow. So did Dakota Fanning learn how to do this for the movie?
I wish. I think it would have been a nice ending. No. But I did get to carve her a guitar for her birthday. Yes, I carved her.
That's so cool.
I was going to say, that was actually my next question, was if you've ever carved a musical instrument, but you answered that for me.
Yes. I carved a guitar for Dakota and to scale. And yes, I enjoy doing that very much. And I also just carved a bench for Kristen Stewart at her home.
Oh, wow.
From 100-year-old olive root that they had unearthed from a hillside, and in place, I went and carved a dragon bench out of that.
Ooh.
So that was different.
Do you ever do any of this stuff that you make for other people and then just afterward think, I kind of wish I could just keep this one?
You know what? I used to feel that way. In fact, I was sharing this story yesterday with a friend of mine. I had carved a bear once that was kind of slumped over in a chair with this big belly, and there was something so special about this bear, and so I decided to keep it. But this one gal came in, and she kept saying, I am going to buy this bear, and what's the price? And I gave her a ridiculous price, and she said sold.
Wow.
And at that point, of course, I went, oh my God, I love this bear. But the thing is I realized that was when I ended up cutting all ties to my artwork at that point. And everything I make now is basically, I don't own any of my own artwork.
Wow.
Okay.
And, I carve everything now to order, mainly.
Nice, but how do you sever the ties? Do you say goodbye, or do you just try to not get your emotions attached to it?
Or do you just put on the headphones
that
and listen
that little bear was an emotional thing. I really didn't want to see him go, but I knew he was going to. And then, of course, my mind tells me you can carve one like it or even better.
Yeah.
And the thing is, in life we have to let go of so many things. And that was just a part of me learning that is that we have to let go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was going to say, or do you just put the headphones in and listen to David Bowie and go, you know what? It doesn't matter. I'm listening to David Bowie. I'm good.
Well, again, I think having to let go of a lot of things. This year I let go of any possibility of there being a Runaways reunion, which was something I was just dug my heels into the ground believing it could happen. And I had to finally let go. I had to, we have to let go of anger. We have to let go of disappointment. We have to forgive ourselves for things.
Right.
And, we must in order to survive and thrive in this world. So to me, I have no attachment to material things anymore. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's great. So that little bear allowed me to detach from any kind of material things. I could sell anything that I have at this point, or get rid of it or give it away at this point. You can't take it with you.
Right.
So,
And I had a couple questions I want to ask you before we run out of time here that we normally ask on our show. One of them is I want to know, so far, in everything that you've done along, with your career up to this point, what has been some of the best advice that you've gotten along the way that's really stuck with you that you would recommend to someone maybe just getting started?
Stay the hell away from drugs and alcohol.
Yeah, I feel like that deserves a
Yes.
clap. I mean, I feel like that's one of those things that's becoming
I'm
cliche, but
you,
it needs to be.
That is the one thing that held me back on everything, and it just has to be, I guess, my lesson this time around.
Right.
Because alcoholism is deeply embedded in my father's side of the family, and it is a real disease that stay the hell away from drugs, stay away from alcohol, and you know what, you'll have a chance.
All right.
Have a chance.
Well, that's something that actually is really impressing me about today's generation is the lack of drugs in today's generation. I mean, obviously, there's always going to be people that want to do it, but I've noticed, in the progression of decade and decade, it seems like this one has the least number of kids that are even interested in it.
Well, it's funny you say that because I actually see the opposite.
Really?
I mean, I see a lot of marijuana. Yes, so, and also the fact that it's becoming accepted, which at this point, to me, the fact that alcohol is even legal,
Right.
Because that kills more people than than any drug, and it's legal, and it's a terrible, terrible drug for people that have any kind of, any kind of ism whatsoever.
Right.
It's the worst, and trust me, I know, because I've taken that route a few times, and that's because you just never can. You can never leave your guard down. You just can't, and it just gets progressively worse each time. But to me, I can't believe how lax they are with drugs and alcohol these days. When I mean drugs, I mean marijuana. And I think, hey, you know what? I've never smoked marijuana in any kind of way where I never liked it when I tried it. And I trust me, I wish I'd have done marijuana rather than cocaine or Quaaludes back in the day. But, to me, it's just best to stay away from all of it.
Right. Well, and I do have one last question I wanted to ask you before we go here is about resources, because we are in that technology age where, there are resources everywhere. Are there any internet sites, books, or resources in general that you would recommend that you think everyone in this line, every musician should at least know about these? I was going to say this line of work, and then I realized she's in like 20 kinds of work.
You know what? I am so not a savvy, tech gal. In fact, I still have one of those old cell phones. I refuse to even have the internet on my phone and all that. Yes. I mean, the only thing that I can honestly say is if you listen to that voice and that tells you that this is the path you need to take. And I mean, I'm not talking about something, if you're frazzled if you don't know. If you know what that path is, that you just work at it and let the powers guide you, because you can't fail if you're put here to do this. It will happen. Just surround yourself with good people. Don't be trusting, because you can't be. I've always been way too trusting in my life. And, now, unfortunately, I really realize I can't be that person. Listen to that inner voice and don't listen to anybody else. That I have to say. Because most people will tell you can't do it, or that's a crazy thought. Don't listen, because you were put on this planet alone to do what you were put on this planet to do. Nobody else will ever understand what you feel. Not your parents, not your best friends, no one. And be true to yourself. Treat yourself well. Stay away from drugs and alcohol. And follow your dream, follow your heart, follow that voice, and you will go far.
Excellent. That is great advice. And unfortunately, we are getting down to the end of the interview. But before we go, where are places that our listeners can find out more information on the wide array of things you do?
Well, right now, let's see. Well, I'm going to be at the Santa Monica. I'm doing something for the Santa Monica Library on the 6th with Susan Olsen. They're actually going to be showing the Runaways film, and we're going to do a Q&A after that.
Oh, nice.
And which is really neat. Yeah, that's the 6th of June. Come on down. It's free.
Nice.
Excellent.
It's going to be a blast, and Susan and I are signing some posters that they've made for anyone that buys a library card. You get a free signed poster. It's just going to be a gas. And who doesn't like to go down to Santa Monica, really?
Right.
So that's really neat, and I'm going to be doing some touring abroad in November, and also I'm just going to have some fun.
Excellent.
And if you want something carved, you can reach me at chainsawchick, that's CHICK.com, and make sure to click on the little icon under the picture on the main page, because that takes you to just albums of things that I've done most recently. But, and contact me and I'll carve whatever you want.
Nice.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Cherie, for being on the show. It's really been an absolute honor talking to you.
Thank you.
You guys are so much fun. I'm going to go call my friend Anna from Iceberg.
Yes, you have to now.
I think I just... Yeah. All right, you guys, have a great, great, great day. Thanks for the support.
Absolutely. And for more information on Cherie Currie and the podcast, go to entertainmentdrivethru.com and subscribe on iTunes. Like and follow us on our Facebook at facebook.com/entertainmentdrivethru and our Twitter and Instagram at edrivethru.
Hi, I'm Cherie Currie, and you are listening to the Entertainment Drive-Thru.